Time again for Talking Dogs with Ian Grant, owner of Vermont Dog Boarding and Behavior, VFW Drive Hyde Park. It's the show that delves into the training, socializing, behavior, nutrition, and wellness of your dog. And brought to you by Guy's Farm and Yard with locations in Morrisville, Montpelier, Williston, and St. Albans. If it eats and grows, Guy's can feed it. And we're back with the trainer, Ian Grant. And the old adage goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, Ian, can we? Is this a popular misconception?
I think it's – so I had to look this up because I was actually curious, too, of where this came from. This goes back to one of the oldest sayings in the English language. It goes back to 1546.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they even showed how it was written. I couldn't even understand it. Like you could pick out some words. But, yeah, so where this really comes from, in my opinion, my experience is – instead of these being tricks, I think, this day and age we can refer to them as, commands or patterns or
trainings of sorts.
Yeah, behaviors, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so, and I've had many people say this, and some people think their dog that's 3 or 4 years old is old. And
3 or 4 years old.
Yeah, and thinking, can you teach an old dog new tricks? I'm like, you're not even close
You're
to being.
You're not even in the ballpark yet.
No. Not until your dog is a senior are we really even
Now senior
this.
Being what, 9, 10?
Well, that also depends on the breed, too.
I suppose,
a 7-year-old Great Dane is a senior.
Yeah, exactly.
7-year-old Chihuahua is probably not a senior.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it that way, yeah.
Yeah. So this can be a problem. I think most people look at this and go, okay, the dog is just too set in their ways that we just can't break them out of a bad habit. We can't change it. And I've often said I think the person that actually probably came up with this wasn't overly patient with dogs because that's really what has to happen. If you have a dog that's been practicing a bad behavior or let's just say an unwanted behavior for, 8, 9, 10 years, we can't expect this dog to change it once we teach it what we want and for them to completely reverse it in a week. Yeah. It just is. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, how serious are you to train the dog right? If you're waiting 8 or 9 years, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, there's an old adage that said for every year that your dog practices an unwanted behavior, it takes 1 month to unwind 1 year.
Well, I'm learning a lot of these adages today.
Yeah, so you have to look at it that way. Plus, I think we did a show on the 90-day rule. If there's a new change, that sometimes it can take dogs up to 90 days. So you're really looking at this and going, okay, if your dog's been practicing this for 8, 9, 10 years, this might take a year completely, of just like steadily working at it over time to change things around.
And that's where the patience comes in.
And that's where the patience comes in because I think we just tend to give up too soon. And I've had clients that have come in and request to have things done by yesterday, and it just doesn't. You're dealing with a being.
Right.
It's not a computer. You just restart the computer and everything's fixed. It takes some time, and it takes some learning and unlearning to do, too, at the same time.
Now, is there a difference between correcting a bad habit and teaching something brand new that they've never learned before?
See, this is why you're good at this, because you're starting to learn. This is the whole direction over correction thing. I would rather – sometimes you do have to interrupt a bad behavior to just kind of get them to snap out of it. But otherwise, I want all my clients to know, like, what do you want out of this? Don't tell me what you don't want. Tell me what you want. So let's teach the dog what we do want. Let's teach the 10-year-old dog what we want them to do instead of constantly just saying no to him, because that gets exhausting. So have the patience to do this. Create what you want. Picture it in your head and just slowly work towards it step by step. And just know, too, that you are allowed to take your time with an old dog. Right. You really are, and it'll make things much easier for you, too.
Yeah, so you can, but I guess it depends on what you're trying to teach the dog, too, right? And it depends. I mean, there's so many factors that are involved in this.
Yeah, there's environmental factors. There's also relationship factors. There's intensity as well. So this isn't just like lift your paw and teach a shake kind of teaching a trick.
No.
This is a behavior that might be greeting somebody at the door, or that the dog has lunged at people for many years. So it's going to take some unwinding to do, but we can do it.
Yeah, but it's on us, really, if it's gotten to the bad behavior where you've let it go for 8 or 9 years. I mean, don't the dog owners can't be always blaming the dog on why it's not learning? I mean, don't we have to take some responsibility?
Yeah, and I will say in my experience, too, that a lot of the dog owners will go, yep, this is totally my fault. I didn't jump on it early enough. I know that, if I had done this early on when I saw something that just kind of made me think, that's not right. Instead of waiting till the point where you go, uh-oh.
So you have many dog owners that actually will take the responsibility.
Yeah, and they'll say, I know it's my fault. I know I'm the one that
great.
needs the training, which is obviously the truth because the dog's not going to train itself.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, there is a lot of responsibility. I mean, I look at it this way. If they're calling and coming in for a lesson, they're taking responsibility too.
Exactly.
And that's who I want to deal with.
Right. Back with our question from the doggy bag in just a moment here on Talking Dogs. Back with Talking Dogs with Ian Grant from Vermont Dog Boarding and Behavior, VFW Drive Hyde Park. Want to listen back at some of these past programs that we've done and other podcasts that Ian produces throughout the course of his week? Just go to VermontDogBoardingandBehavior.com and click on the podcasts link, and there you go. Our question this morning, Ian, is my dog seems territorial when a friend brings their dog to my house. What can I do? Is this like they're protecting their turf, so to speak? Or
well,
what?
We can't discount that.
Yeah.
I think there's that. There could be toys that are sitting out. Could be, territorial of the humans that they live with. And in these situations, I always tell people, look, don't even, the friend that has a dog, don't even bring that dog inside yet. I mean, chances are it's already happened here.
Yeah.
When your friend pulls into the driveway, just take your dogs and go for a walk from there. Go drain some energy. They don't need to be next to each other during the walk. One thing I tell everybody is when we're walking and we're walking next to somebody, we don't turn and look at the person that we're walking next to, but walking straight. I mean, that's when people run into telephone poles and mailboxes, and right?
Yeah.
So it gets exhausting for dogs too. They can't stare to one side or the other and walk forward. They start to focus forward, and that's what kind of creates this like, okay, we're doing this together, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you get back to the house, I would bring them inside, and then I would anchor them to something in the house that they can't move. But,
Yes.
But they can also be in the same vicinity of each other, but they also can't get to each other. So we want to create – we went back to the show last week of rules and boundaries. These are the rules when you two get together. We're going to go for a walk, and then when you come inside, you're going to get hooked to a couch or whatever, a love seat, and you're going to be separated, but you get to see each other, and this is the way this is going to work. So instead of like you just said, the correction of the bad behavior, let's teach the dogs what we want. This is what we want to do. Create this pattern so they understand, like, hey, when we see each other, we have to do all this stuff for the humans.
Yeah.
We can't just start talking amongst ourselves and barking and lunging at each other.
Yeah. So what happens if they kind of want to get at each other? If we got them anchored and they're just kind of jumping, I mean, does that mean we have to separate them even more or even put them in separate rooms?
It may come down to just taking them for a longer walk to drain a little bit more energy. So,
okay.
Or a bike ride or something along those lines. But chances are if they're reacting like that, they're probably a little too close.
Yeah.
And let's just create more distance and just work on the same exact thing.
Yeah. Now, when we're doing the walk, are they interacting or they're just walking?
No, just
That's
walking.
It. Just walking.
Just
That's
like you and I are walking down the sidewalk and maybe
it's not playtime. It's just walk time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole different thing.
Yep. We just want to create a good state of mind and good energy.
Okay. If you have a question for Ian, you can email him directly to info@VermontDogBoardingandBehavior.com. Next week, is your dog pushy?
Yeah.
What do you mean by bushy?
Sometimes this can be a physical thing, like the dog's constantly bumping you, but can also be demanding too. So this is a big piece of the puzzle of the dog training world I thought we could shed a light on.
Dogs demanding. Really? It could be. Okay. And Talking Dogs with Ian Grant, brought to you by Guy's Farm and Yard, with locations in Morrisville, Montpelier, Williston, and St. Albans. If it eats and grows, Guys can feed it. And for the trainer Ian Grant, I'm Roland LaJoy, and we are Talking Dogs.